Hi guys, and welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. So today I'm gonna do a July wrap-up and then a mini book haul because I bought some books off of Amazon coming out of my August budgeted book money, as well as my wife and I went out to Destin to a Barnes & Noble because we don't have one in town. And so we just bought some books because we were, took a kind of a romantic weekend out of town type thing. And we like to go to bookstores when we go out of town. So I got a few books that weren't on my last book haul, so I'm just gonna kind of amend them to that. So this month I read 6 books, which is only because Dust of Dreams was one of them. All 1,280 pages of Malazan Book of the Fallen, Book 9. 5 of them were fantasy and 1 was a thriller. It totals out to like 2,983 pages, something like that. Irritating because not only is Dust of Dreams 1,280 pages, that's fine, but it's 1,280 dense pages. If you've ever read a Malazan book, they are not easy to read. They're not like... It doesn't just fly by. The prose isn't, it's not super flowing, so it's not a slog because it is better than Toll the Hounds in my opinion, but it's like when you try to run in the pool or run on not packed sand. So it's like that. You're making progress, but not very quickly versus running on the road. That's what reading a Malazan book is like to me. My star ratings were actually pretty good with these books, and I tend to rate things pretty high, mostly because I'm not gonna put a book on my TBR that I don't think I'm gonna enjoy. So I know my taste pretty well, so most of the time when I put a book on it, I don't think I'm gonna dislike it. Now, every now and then you have a miss, like Return of the Crimson Guard, which I hate so much. And every now and then you want to keep reading a series and one book in that series is just a loser. But you gotta get past it so you can get to the rest of the series. So that tends to be what happens when I have like a 1-star book or a 2-star book. I'm not done with Dust of Dreams yet because it's not yet the 31st of July or the 1st of August. I will finish Dust of Dreams before the beginning of August, and if my rating is different, then I'll just raise it up. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's a 3 stars. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
That's fine.
Like, there's nothing wrong with it. There's just too much. The later Malazan books are just packed so much with stuff that any one of the threads could be a book on their own, like a 300-page book on their own, and because it was more laser focused, would be more interesting and more readable. It's not like that. Instead, it's everything in the world at once, varying plot threads where you forget where it left off because it's been so long since you revisited them, and it just seems like a slog, but it's fine.
That's fine.
Barring anything amazing at the end, Erikson said that this book and number 10 are supposed to be kind of taken together, so it doesn't have the traditional rise and fall of a novel. So I don't really expect there to be a gripping conclusion like there usually is, so it's probably just going to be a 3-star. But it is pretty good. You learn a ton about the Kachane Shamal, which if you've read up to Memories of Ice and Malazan, they're the frickin' dinosaur race. That's awesome. So you learn more about that, so that's cool. So it's a 3. 4 of the others were all 4 stars. So we have Behind Closed Doors, which was a thriller I read about this perfect couple that
isn't quite as perfect as they seem.
4 stars easily. Such a good book, guys. An easy read. I read it in 2 days only because I fell asleep. Pick up this book if you like thrillers. It doesn't go exactly where you think it's gonna go. Man, if you like mustache twirling villains, read this book, y'all. Read this book. My next 4-star book here is Terry Pratchett's Men-at-Arms. This is the second book in Discworld's City Watch series. The first one was Guards, which I did a review for last month. This is good. I don't like it quite as much as Guards. This tackles the topic of racism. So racism in the Discworld, which is a very, it's Discworld, so it doesn't handle it with any kind of real nuance, but it does tackle the subject of racism. In this case, it's speciesism. It's the humans of the Watch versus the new troll, dwarf, woman, and werewolf who have joined the Watch's ranks, and they've been forced to by the patrician, who is the head of the main city. And so it's all them dealing with it. And there's also a mystery. Some guy has a gun that shoots metal slugs at people, and they're trying to figure out who that is and how he's doing it. All the Guards books have mysteries. This one is great. Read this one super fast as well. I don't love it quite as much as Guards, mostly because the original Guards aren't front and center. It's those new Guards that get most of the screen time. But great book, easily 4 stars. My next 4-star book is Shadow's Linger, which is book 2 of the Black Company series. This is so much better than that first book, guys. If you struggled with the Black Company, give this a try before you write Black Company off entirely. I have a review for this if you want to check that out. I have a review for Men at Arms, but it's not posted yet, so you can check that out too if you want to know about the previous one. This is a great book. Elements of horror, parts of it feel like a Lovecraft story. There's much more character work because it's a much smaller story than the Black Company. The Black Company took place across 2 different continents. This one takes place mostly in a single city, and it's a morality play about how desperate can you get and what will you do when you reach the lowest point of your life. Really good book, improves on the first book in nearly every way, fleshes out the magic a little more, fleshes out the characters much more, and definitely leads up right into the conclusion of those first 3 books called the Books of the North with the White Rose, which is book 3. So if you like Black Company, then definitely read this. If you didn't like Black Company, read this anyway. My other 4-star book is A Shadow in Summer, which was my randomed book on my TBR that the D&D Minis of Fate chose for me, and I am so glad that they did. Otherwise, it might have been a while before I picked this one up. I gave this 3.5 stars in my review, but I have been thinking about this book since I read it. This is not 3.5, this is 4 stars, definitely, at least. Mostly because not a lot happens, but you know it's building to something. I'm so excited to read books 2, 3, and 4 to see where it goes. I've heard that 2 is better and 3 is amazing. Haven't heard much about book 4, so I'll just need to check that out. This book is about a trading city, and it's so complicated. I'm just not going to go. If you want to know what it's about, go check out my review. But it's a trading city, and the cotton trade, which sounds boring.
What? No.
It's not. There's political intrigue. There's economic intrigue, if that's a thing. The character work in this really quiet story is really, really good. Great friendships, great relationships, very realistic and morally gray without being morally horrific, which is what we usually consider morally gray. If you were a fantasy fan, especially like low fantasy, read A Shadow in Summer. It's a super short book. It's like 330 pages. So the last book that I read is my 5-star book. It's out in the other room because my wife is currently reading it. It is Senlin Ascends, the first book in the Books of Babel series, written by Josiah Bancroft. Guys, I loved this book. If you saw my review, you saw how much I love this book. This book gets mixed reviews because it is not for everyone. It is whimsical while at the same time being super weird, while at the same time being disturbing in parts. It has elements of like Gulliver's Travels, Phantom Tollbooth, Alice in Wonderland, Narnia. It's just bizarre. It's very like, and at the same time not like anything else I've ever read. I love the characters in this, from the side characters to the main character, Senlin, his growth over the course of this book, and the fact that he's older and a school teacher, rather than, he's just different from the normal fantasy heroes that we get. And he's kind of reluctant to go on this journey, similar to Bilbo or Frodo. It's a great book. The prose is amazing. Josiah Bancroft, even if you don't like the story, you will love the prose. He's a fantastic, fantastic writer. So that is my wrap-up. A lot of people take a really long time to do their wrap-ups, and I really like watching those, seeing like the in-depthness that they go in their wrap-ups. I tend to do a review for every book I read, even if it's not up yet, so I don't really know what else to say. I did my page count, the amount of books I read. Also, I don't read 13 books in a month, so this is what I managed this time. So now I'm going to talk about my mini book haul and just show you the new ones that I've added to my TBR shelf over there. I have promised my wife that I'm gonna stop buying the first books of series. I'll leave that to like one a month, and I'll start buying sequels, because I don't actually have a bunch of sequels to these books over here, or the books that I've read. So I'm gonna start buying the sequels so I can keep reading the series. My first book here is The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch. Most everyone who reads fantasy on BookTube knows what this book is. It's the first book in the Gentleman Bastards series. It's apparently about a heist, and apparently there's a really good friendship. Some booktubers that I watch have split opinions. Murphy Napier, who I like a lot, she loves this book and the friendship between the two main characters, Locke and Jean. But Elliot Brooks, who I also love, does not love this book. So I am eager to see where I fall on the spectrum of this one. It's about a heist, and I like heists. Scott Lynch's name keeps coming up when I read about grimdark fantasy, which I do love. I am eager to see what this book is all about, what the hype is about, or if it is overhyped, and we will see. I really like friendships in books as well, and I also like heists, especially well-planned heists, where I'm like, what? They did what? Oh, snap, I did not see that coming. I don't know if that's in this book, but we shall see. I've resisted picking this up for a while, and I hate to admit it, but because of the alliterative title, I thought it was too whimsical for me, which is ironic considering how much I love the whimsy of Senlin Ascends. I don't know why I hate I don't know why I hate his name, Loch Lamora. It just seems very, I don't know, Irish sea shanty? I don't know. Boom! The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I got this because, one, I actually know about the Opium Wars, and I'm pretty sure that this is based on the Opium War, and also is super dark. This is has a female protagonist who is apparently savage and like tears people up. There's training in it, which is fine. But the Dragon Republic is out already, and what's the next one? I don't know what the last one is called, but it's coming out this year. And I got this one because I kind of want to be part of the conversation. I see a lot of people talking about the Poppy War and a lot of people liking it. Some people don't, but the majority of the people who I've seen have enjoyed this book. I like historical fantasy, even if it doesn't really have a ton to do with the Opium Wars. And there were several Opium Wars, so we'll see. But I am excited to read this one. I like action-packed books. I tend to like my fantasy on the violent side most of the time. There is a point where it can be too much, and I'm just like, ugh, come on. And this one may tip over into that, but we shall see. Next, we have A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. I have definitely wanted to pick this book up, even though it's not completed yet. I don't really like starting to read series that aren't done, because then I have part of them in paperback, and then in order to keep up with the series without waiting a year to read the next book, I gotta buy it in hardback instead of waiting for the paperback. This is supposedly based on the Byzantine Empire. Like, there's a space empire that's based on the Byzantines, which is freaking awesome. And our heroine has to go and become the ambassador for this empire because the last ambassador was straight up murked. And they don't know why, but they suspect foul play. And so it's kind of like a murder mystery, I think, while also dealing with can you say geopoliticking, space politicking, whatever it is. And I love political intrigue. I love political intrigue books. So I've heard this is slow, but that's okay as long as the intrigue and the mystery are interesting. And also the Byzantines. So I will be reading this one probably pretty soon because the next one comes out in September. So I may read this one in September in order that I can get that new one. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Speaking of series that are not over yet, boom! Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. So I got this one because a lot of booktubers that I like were talking about this. Jessie May really loves this book. Elliot Brooks was currently reading this when I picked it up, so I figured I would pick it up, see what all the fuss was about. I was initially going to read Robert RJB's City of Stairs trilogy first, but this is where the current discussion is at, this particular series, so I'm probably going to tackle this one first, even though Shorefall came out in January, and I don't know when the third book's going to come out, so I guess I'll have to wait. But this is about a thief lady who works for a guild. I think that's Foundryside is the name of the guild, so already merchant houses, which are awesome, and the magic, I think, is called scriving, where you can change, like, the property of something. Like, I think you can make something that is normally light, like super heavy. something like that. It sounds like a really cool magic system, and I like thief main characters. I like them more than I like assassin main characters. Thieves aren't always my favorite because thieves tend to have like really high QPMs or quips per minute. I don't love quipping heroes, guys. I know that Thor Ragnarok was everyone's favorite, but guys, the QPMs in Thor Ragnarok is out of control. Everyone can't be a quipster. You just can't. Everyone can't be a quipster. So with that being said, thieves tend to be the quippier of fantasy heroes. We'll see how quip. What's her name? Oh, I can't pronounce this. Hold on. Her name is it Sansia? Yeah, Sansia Grado or Grotto. Which one sounds better? I'll decide before I review it. Sansia, we'll see if she's a quipster, or if she is, if she's cool enough to rise above it. Rise above it. Next we have Traitor's Blade by Sebastien de Castell. I say Sebastien because it's I-E-N instead of I-A-N, which I would say Sebastian. This is the first book of the Great Cloaks. When I read the back of this book and it talks about swashbucklers and a dude named Falcio, it's probably Falcio because it takes place more in the Three Musketeers era where it's probably Italian, not Latin. But as a Latin teacher, the C is hard. So I'm going to say Falcio, even though it's probably Falcio. And they're in a group that is known by their great cloaks. That is awesome. I love awesome fantasy hero costumes, if that makes sense. And I really love huge cloaks or trench coats or dusters. I don't know, I really like fantasy characters that wear coats. I like books that take place in that time period. Like I just got The Folding Knife, which takes place in a very similar time period. I like swashbuckling. I like rapiers. Most of my D&D NPCs that I would give to the party because they needed to fill in a hole used a rapier because I just think it's such a classy weapon. I wish I could fence, but I am not of the appropriate social status to fence. My net worth is probably far too low to be a fencer, but I think the idea of fencing, and I'm talking about sword, not like selling stolen goods. I don't know, it just sounds awesome. So this book sounds so cool. The next book I got was Arm of the Sphinx, which is book 2 of the Books of Babel. This is the sequel to Senlin Ascends. I'm not gonna say much about it because it does spoil, even the back spoils the end of the first book. I'm just gonna say that I'm gonna read this ASAP because it is the second book in this series. I got it so that I could read it this month, and that's all I'm gonna say. I hope it's just as good as the first one. So I bought this. This is Stonewielder. This is the next Malazan book that is kind of the side series written by Esslemont. So I did not enjoy Esslemont's Knight of Knives or Return of the Crimson Guard. I did not enjoy them at all. This continues that story following Greymane and his tag-along named Kyle. And I got it because I need to read it, and I will read it eventually. Not anytime soon. I didn't even put this in my random TBR because I didn't want to accidentally get it, because I'm not going to read it now. But I am eventually going to read this. I'm hoping that this is better. Everything I have heard about Esslemont is that each book he gets better and better as he kind of gets his feel of who he is as a writer. I'm hoping that's the case in this, because Return of the Crimson Guard just took me too long, and I did not enjoy it at all. But I went ahead and got this, and it took forever to get here, which I'm hoping isn't a harbinger of things to come. The next book I got was Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. So this is the first book of a new series of his. What's it called? Burning Blade and Silver Eye, which is an awesome name for a series. I've read Django Wexler's adult fantasy books. They're military fantasy. The Shadow Campaign series, which is Napoleonic Wars, but with demons and magic. They're really, really good. Not all of the books are fantastic, and book 5 is underwhelming especially, but books 3 and 4 are awesome. They're really, really good, and I like Wexler as an author. I didn't read his young adult series because I don't really read young adult, and I knew this series was coming out. I knew this book was coming out, but I didn't think it was out yet. But when my wife and I were at Barnes & Noble, I saw it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and get it, because I was planning on getting it when it came out. I just didn't realize that it had come out. So this is a book about a sibling pair, and they're on opposite sides of essentially a growing conflict or a war. Let me check. Yeah, one's on the side of the Empire and one has vowed to bring the Empire down. I like sibling relationships in books. I don't think we don't have enough of them, really. The first sibling relationship I remember was Raistlin and Caraman from the Dragonlance books. I hate both of those characters, but I like sibling characters that aren't insufferable like both of those characters. So I am excited to read this one. And I also like that it's not hardback, that it's one of those floppy paperbacks. So, and then finally on this mini book haul, I went ahead and ordered the first Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I like girls that wear Abercrombie and Fitch. I've been wanting to read this. This is like the quintessential grimdark fantasy. I think, you know, Joe Abercrombie like rejuvenated the grimdark subgenre. I think, you know, it starts with Glen Cook, really, and then this is, you know, the spiritual successor, kind of the Black Company. I've heard so many good things about this. I went ahead and bought all three because I could literally get all three for $29.99, or I could pay $17 for one. So I just went ahead and got all three. I am excited to see what all the fuss was about, because even though these books are not new, everyone is still talking about these books. And I really like military fantasy and I really like grimdark fantasy, so I am eager to see what all the fuss is about. And there's one character in here. Who is it? Like Locke? No, that's from what? There's a character in this book that everyone's favorite character. I don't know what his name is. If you know it, Grikshaw, Latka, Latvia, something like that. If you know it, I'll probably look it up. But I want to see if that character, if people like, I don't know. I want to see if I like that character as well. So that wraps up my July wrap-up and also the mini book haul from these books that I collected kind of over the weekend. I am excited to film my TBR for August next and read more books in August. This one, July, it's just a wash. If I have to read a Malazan book, it's just going to take a long time. So I'm not going to read a Malazan book in August so that I can hopefully read more books. And then I'll pick up the last Malazan book hopefully in September, or at least half of it. I've resolved to maybe I'm just going to read half of one per month. It just takes so long. So anyway, guys, if you've read any of these books, you should definitely tell me what you think of them. If you think there's any particular ones that I should knock to the top of my TBRs in the future, please let me know. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.